Hello, this is Michael Justin Lee, the president of the Ivy Dream. Welcome to another episode of Aspire, our higher education podcast channel. Today, we're very happy to talk with Polina Tyurikova, a senior at New York University. Thank you for joining us, Polina.
I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy you're chosen to join us. Polina, let's just get into your early life in schooling. But could you please tell us a little bit about your home background?
So I'm originally from Moscow, from Russia, which is very far away from NYU and from United States. I attended boarding school in Switzerland. From the age when I was 15, I moved there. So I did an IGCSE program first, which is a British program, and then I did an International Baccalaureate, the IB program later on. So that was in terms of my schooling. Previously to that, I was just in Russian school. Yeah.
Interesting. Paulina, going to boarding school in Switzerland, was it your intention to go to university in Europe or the UK?
I think after doing the International Baccalaureate program, I really had pretty much any university that would take this program. And there's a lot of universities all around the world. I didn't really have an intention going to NYU at first or like an American university. I really applied to universities in the UK. I was considering some universities in the Netherlands, but I didn't end up applying to those. And I also applied to different universities in the United States. And so I had kind of those two options. I think being able to speak like English language was also for me really important. It was harder for me to consider programs in Europe because I can only speak Russian and English. So I didn't want to have to learn another language on top of that and also kind of feel comfortable in where I was. So the UK and United States became my first sort of options.
Uh-huh. Was what age were you when you started giving a serious thought to where you wanted to study?
Honestly, for me, it was really last minute. I think that I definitely suggest everyone do it before than I did. I started thinking like the last year of my IB program, so the last like the senior year of high school. I definitely suggest doing that way before and doing sort of like research. But for me, I just wasn't really sure. I've been so long in my like boarding school, it kind of became a part of my life, and I was so surprised when I realized that oh, it's gonna end, and I have to sort of find another chapter of my life. It was really hard for me personally to realize that because people that I was with in boarding school kind of became my family. It was really hard to sort of decide that, oh, there's something new. There's like, I need to move somewhere or do something and go to college. I was also obviously excited about that, but that was a new step. So I think I took it quite late in the sort of like college applications and like process in general.
That is fascinating. So your prep school did not press their students to be thinking about college earlier than final year?
So I think in the last year, for sure, we had a lot of pressure and like support, and we had advisor who was helping us with different applications, sort of thinking about schools. I think they did mention thinking about those a little bit earlier, maybe in like the end of like second to last year. And the end of it, just because some early applications, like for example, to Oxford and Cambridge, are in October, or some programs are very early on, September and October. So I do know students who were in my class who had applied early on, but I just wasn't one of those students. I think there was a lot of emphasis in the senior year, a lot more, because we did have to apply actively.
Uh-huh. Now let's move up to your senior year of high school. How did you make the decision between the UK and the US? Or did you consider them simultaneous? Did you apply to UK and US schools?
So I applied to the UK and United States schools sort of at the same time. So for the UK process is a little bit more straightforward. You apply for one application, I think it's called UCAS if I'm not mistaken, and you submit up to 5 applications maximum. And usually they suggest you to do it like 2 safeties, maybe 1 or 2 middles, and or 1 and 2 like reach schools. Your top schools, your top choices. So that's happening around December, January. So in the middle of a year, depending on the programs you apply. And then for United States, the application deadlines really differ if you're applying like for a decision or a regular decision, early action, all those new things that I was honestly just started to learn in my senior year. So I applied to those simultaneously, and the offers were also coming at different times. So I was kind of making my considerations as I go. The UK applications the like decisions about them came in earlier than my application decisions from my United States schools. But I had time to consider them sort of at the same time. So I think it was really nice for me that I had a choice, and I was just like sort of picking the schools and then doing a little bit more in-depth research for that.
Uh-huh. That's very interesting too. What were the considerations going through your mind in choosing which American universities that you will be applying to?
So I think I really started from looking at my own profile, looking at what sort of test scores I have, what IB predicted scores for a National Baccalaureate program I will have, what sort of maybe qualifications I have, and then what sort of programs I'm looking at. So first, I kind of looked through maybe a list. I went through the like US ranking of colleges, and I just kind of picked the range of where I might fit in terms of scores. And then I started to think, okay, would this be my reach? Would that be my middle? Would that be my safety? So I kind of approached in the same way that I approached my UK applications. And then going from there, I think I had about 30, 40 schools, which is a lot. I think it's kind of impossible to apply to all those, especially considering that I started that quite late. So then from there, I just looked a little bit deeper into the schools and what do I want to do, and what sort of like background I want the school to have, where should it be located. Like I was in a very rural area, very, very rural area. I was in the middle of the Alps for my Swiss boarding school. And then I was really thinking, do I want to be in an urban area? Do I want to be in a rural area? Do I want to have more international students, or do I want to kind of integrate myself more into American culture? So I think after making the list based on my qualifications, I started making a list based on what qualifications I was looking in the schools. And I think that I had an advisor which really, really helped me a lot in terms of doing all that process, which was an outside advisor. It was an outside like counsel, who was like I would say like a very professional in terms of knowing the American schools. And sometimes if I had questions about those, I got that extra help.
Oh, that's great. And then now, NYU specifically, what was it about NYU that especially attracted you?
I was actually didn't know that I would be going to NYU. I was on the wait list, and usually, from what I'm told, is that wait list is sort of like a no. It's really low chance that you will go into the school. And I actually committed to University of Virginia first, which was also a great school. I wasn't super excited about it. I think I really wanted to stay in the city. And then after that, I also had an offer from Boston University. After that, I withdrew from University of Virginia. After I committed, I called them up. I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm not coming." And then I decided to go to Boston University. And then, nearly near my birthday, which was quite late, it's in May, I got a notification saying I'm off the wait list for NYU. And I think NYU was one of those schools that combined two things that I was arguing about, between Boston University and University of Virginia. Like Boston University was in the city, it was a little bit more dynamic. It was a big change from the rural area I was living in. And University of Virginia was a similar sort of like, it was a great school for the psychology program. It was also similar sort of approach to academics that I just liked. And I think NYU just combined those things. So that's why I decided to go there. It was just a combination of sort of like best worlds. But I think I'm just super, super lucky. I didn't have enough knowledge about NYU as I do now, and I'm super grateful that I am now in that school because I think it's a great fit for what I want to do and in just genuinely about like life at NYU.
We'll get into that, but congratulations. May before you finally knew where you would be going. Where was your mindset, if you had not gotten into NYU, was your mindset more inclined to University of Virginia or Boston University?
I think I would have chosen Boston University. I also had an offer from University College London, which was in the UK. So I think it was also, I had some sort of decision making in terms of what country I would want to go into. I think I was more happy going to Boston University, because I just really wanted to be in the city. I grew up in the suburb of Moscow. Then I went to a very isolationist sort of school, which was in the Alps, which was a great experience, but I really wanted to change, especially that as I'm looking to find a job, most jobs are in the city. So I needed to know how can I live in a city? Will I be okay living alone and sort of managing things? So I think it was an important growing experience, and I was choosing between like Boston University. I think was like a better choice. I think at the time for me, if I didn't got off the wait list, but I also had this UK offer at UCL to go to a very good school in London. And a lot of I think all of my classmates went to the UK. I was the only person who went to the United States, which was also a hard decision because all my friends have stayed in the UK, and they're all still meeting up. So I also had that decision sort of on the side.
That's great. That's great. Paulina, I really want to go into NYU in depth, but first, let's talk about your application process. In your year, was the SAT a required part of the application?
It wasn't a required part of the application, and I actually did not send my SATs to NYU. I just sent my IB diploma, and my like predicted scores from that time. And I think NYU is still keeping SATs as like optional, test optional, and hopefully they will do that so in the future. But I really don't know. But I did still do SATs more than once. I took the test. My score wasn't great, but it was like medium, was good. So I submitted to some schools, and if it was test optional, if the school was sort of a higher reach for me, but I know my IB score were reflecting my academic abilities better, I submitted those scores.
Uh-huh. And now let's talk about the Common App. NYU uses the Common App. How did you decide what your essay topic would be?
Oh, that was so hard. I think
Was it?
I think, yeah, it's such a, I don't even remember what the question was, but it was sort of like very broad questions. I think they still very broad so that, each student can approach them in their own way. I just wrote about my life. Honestly, I know that sounds very broad. I wrote about my journey from going from home, then going to Swiss boarding school, then navigating that school. I also wrote about some more personal things that I was going through with my family, changing a little bit. But I kind of wrote about that, and then I started to find a common theme about life just changing very quickly and how kind of became appreciative, and I understand that like the only thing that stays the same was the change. And I think that was my common, yeah, that was my main theme of the essay. And I think a lot of people actually do write about sort of personal milestones or personal achievements or something more personal. So from everything I've read online, from all the examples I saw, I thought I need to write my story, and so I did. And then I found a common theme in it. So I think that's how I sort of my common up came together by itself. But I had, as I said, that we had an outside cancel for the American applications that I was doing, and I think I also had a little bit of like polishing support that from that counselor. Who was just kind of navigating a little bit, like, yeah, maybe we don't need that sentence, maybe that's a little too much, or maybe here you can expand more. And I think essay just came together.
Paulina, did it take you long, the analytical process to what you wanted to say, as well as the actual writing itself?
I think it was a lot of drafts for sure, a lot of writing and rewriting. I honestly do not remember how long that took me. I just remember being piled up by a lot of college applications and decisions, and also prepping for the IB, which was, I actually did not do my IB like diploma, the exams, because I graduated during COVID, so they canceled it. But at the time, I was in the middle of prepping for everything, and I think it just took a lot of drafts. I remember writing my kind of second to last draft on the train when I was going to Switzerland. I was like, okay, does it sound good? Maybe not. But I think it took me for maybe a couple of months, or I probably suggest start thinking about it, or maybe writing some themes or things you can talk about or things that are important to you. For sure, about like a couple of months before you need to send that application.
Mhm. In terms of the next stage, the letter of recommendation process, how did you decide upon who to ask to write yours?
Well, I know that letters of recommendation come from people who are, can speak about your different abilities from academics to your sort of personal abilities. I think for me it was a little easier of a process just because I was in the boarding school, which meant my teachers and people that were around me and sort of housing like house parents, they didn't only know about my academic side, but they also knew about me as a person, which I think is like a great benefit when you're like asking or looking for a person to write a letter of recommendation, because that could be pretty much any teacher, because they could speak in a much more well-rounded manner compared to if you ask someone who just knows you in academics or just knows you personally. So I think it was a great benefit to me. I could pretty much ask any teacher that knew me well or maybe the subject that I like. So for me, I asked my history teacher. She was also my tutor. So in our boarding school, we had like tutors that were sort of teachers that were just looking after you in a different way or showing you more academic support. So I asked that teacher, which was I also really loved history. So for me, it was like a win-win. I knew that I really showed myself academically there, but also I knew that this was my tutor, and so she knew me well enough to write about letter of recommendation. So I think that was it was a little bit easier for me because I was in that boarding school. So pretty much anyone I would ask would be a good person to write, but I chose that tutor. And I think the other one, I think was my teacher from English, but I honestly don't remember. It was a lot to consider, but I think those were the two teachers that I asked for my letter of recommendation.
Oh, good, good, good that you had such close relationship with your teachers. Was there was an interview required your year?
I think it was. I'm honestly not sure. I don't think it was, but in other case, in all the colleges that an interview was required, even though it was online, I did not do it. I think I was not. I didn't think that I would show myself better in an interview, but I highly suggest if someone is very confident, about speaking their abilities or feels like they could sort of put that over the top, the application over the top, then I suggest doing the interview. But for me, I was just super busy. I was super stressed. I thought that I just want to submit everything and sort of be done with it, instead of thinking that I need to prep for the interview and do that extra step. And I knew that I already had some schools gave me like positive offers, and I knew that even if I don't do an interview and I do not get that offer for one reason or another, I'll still be okay because I already knew that I had some schools to go to. So I think for me, I didn't do it, but I do not remember whether that was optional or not.
Well, that's great. Now let's talk about NYU. So it's May. You're since you hadn't received your acceptance yet, your mind was set elsewhere. So you've got your letter for NYU. What was your thinking process or your mind adjusting to New York as opposed to Boston, as opposed to Charlottesville?
I think I have never really thought about ending up in New York. It sounds like such a dream or such a thing that you always see in movies. Every other show you can see right now is New York City based, and everything is just very popular is about New York. So I think it was really hard for me to understand the actual environment I'll be in. And I actually only had about 24 hours or 48 hours, like a very short time to commit to my waitlist offer that I'm going to go to
Really?
NYU. Yeah, they gave a very short time because they want to keep rolling the wait list, especially it was very late in the application process, and they really want to fill up that particular class coming. And I think because I also applied during COVID, a lot of students could not maybe go to NYU at that time. So a lot of them deferred their application, their offers by a year after like COVID is over, or maybe chose to take a gap year. So I think that a lot of schools run into the similar problem of taking a lot of students off the wait list because they were trying to fill in their class because of COVID and just everyone maybe not even be able to make it to New York City. So I had this 48-hour window where I was just a little bit of shock. I remember the way I clicked my decision is that I watched the skyscrapers in New York City. Like I've never been in New York City. I knew nothing about New York City. I just knew that NYU was a great school, and I knew that I look like a great fit in terms of academics and in terms of everything the school has to offer. But I remember watching skyscrapers and then just going, okay, you know what? This looks so pretty. I want to see it in real life. So do not make the decision like that. I think it's really more about the school than just the city. But for me, I watched the skyscrapers and then I looked a little bit more about NYU into NYU, and I was like, I really want to go. I want to try and see whether I can do this. And I think now this popular phrase about, if you can do it, there, you can make it anywhere. So if I can make it in New York, I can make it anywhere.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Before we get to NYU, then a question about that. Have you enjoyed living in the most vibrant city in the world?
I think it honestly had its ups and downs. It was a lot for me to adjust, especially coming from a very rural area. I was living in the middle of the mountains. I was skiing anytime I want. First snow, I was skiing. It was a 10-minute walk to the chairlift from my boarding school. And then coming to the city where there's no mountains, it's not very rural, there's not a lot of green spaces. I mean, unless you consider Central Park, I guess if you live near Central Park, it is green there. But I think I was just a little bit, I think it was hard for me to adjust, especially I came during COVID, which was still going on, and I also could not make it actually in September to NYU in the full semester. So I studied away. I studied like from home. I was learning everything online, which was terrible. I am really sorry for everyone who had to go through with the same thing as I did, with a very big time difference because I was in Russia. And it was 6 or 7 hour difference to New York City. So all my classes that were happening in the morning in New York were happening afternoon in Moscow, and then if they were happening in afternoon, they were happening in the middle of the night for me, and it was really really hard. So that adjustment part was super hard. It was super difficult. I also haven't been at home for the last 4 years, so going from completely away from my family, completely independent, to my house, to my home, just being there, staying there, it was really weird. And then I went to New York City in the spring semester. I flew there and the snowstorm hit. A snowstorm came maybe a week later or a couple of
Oh,
days
no.
later after I landed. And so, in addition to everything closing, like from COVID, everything closed because of a snowstorm. So, I have not actually seen the vibrant, dynamic New York City in the first year at all. I was so shocked because I was promised this very loud, very dynamic, very sort of 24/7 city. And what I got was a bunch of snow, no movements, no people outside. I was just also sitting, the quarantine at the time. I was just looking out my window and the snow was falling. It was beautiful. I love snow, but I really felt a little bit alone and a little scared at the time. And I think only after that, I think my second year was actually my real adjustment to NYU when a little bit more things became in person. It became a little bit more dynamic. I got to know a little bit more people. I think my first year was a little bit of a mess from a lot of reasons. It was good still. I really appreciate everything NYU put into it. They really tried to make our community, even though it was online, a little bit more closer together, and so that everyone could talk a little bit or get to know each other. I got to know my neighbors on the floor because I was living in a residence hall, so that was nice. And what you really tried to sort of make us a little bit more together. But otherwise, I think my actual adjustment became only in the second year, which was also a little bit hard.
Yeah, that's very understandable that it might have been difficult. Now, academically, you mentioned that history is a favorite topic of yours, but you've subsequently mentioned to me that psychology became your major. Did you say it's your major now?
Yeah, yes, it is my major. I'm majoring in psychology.
How did you make your decision academically on what is most interesting to you during your studies at NYU?
I think history was one of the subjects I actually didn't like before I went to my boarding school. Then I really loved in boarding school, and I also really loved mathematics, like maths and history, and I also really loved English literature when I was doing it in IB program. And but I also do not like reading. Like I'm not one of the people who would just pick up a book. I think I loved history. I love getting the information and feeling like I'm knowledgeable, but I really don't like sitting for like a very, very like long book. I remember my high school teacher, the history teacher, she gave us this comparison like Stalin and Hitler, which was a huge book. It was like 200, 300 pages. It was the biggest book I've ever saw. And I was like, I can't read this. I'm pretty sure it's great, but I will just go to the summary part and I will be knowledgeable. That's what I would tell myself. I just really like knowing things. But I'm not one of those people who would like take a very long book and read it. And so I kind of was trying to find a balance between the amount of reading I have to do, and honestly, there's still a lot of it in psychology. But I also wanted to have a balance in the other things I like. Like I really like mathematics, and psychology has a lot of statistics in it and a lot of research in it. And I also did chemistry higher level in my IB program, and I did biology standard level. So I had a little bit of mix of sciences. I'm not sure if I love the science. I really didn't like physics. Biology and chemistry were a little neutral for me. So I thought that psychology combined a little bit of everything. So I applied for that program because I thought that it just fit me better in terms of everything I know and all the skill set that I have, from reading a little bit to understanding a little bit of sciences to knowing a little bit of maths. And I really, really love mathematics. So for me, it was kind of like a balance in a sense. And NYU allows us 2 years before we need to declare our major. So I actually declared my major at the end of my second year. So I came, I took different classes. I took some economics classes because I love mathematics. I took some different science classes. I took all the core requirement classes, like a lot of them. And so at the end of my second year, I was like, you know what? I really like psychology. I want to learn more about it. And so here I am.
Yeah. Is your interest more on the clinical side or the research side of psychology?
It's actually neither. It's more on I'm more interested in like a business side of psychology. So I'm very interested in the way human behavior is applied in the business setting, from HR to marketing to management. I think there's so much psychology we use in every day, and in a lot of business decisions, and especially as more I like the more experience I get, especially for example in HR, like there's a big problem with people coming back into the office after pandemic, or just in the way technology disrupts the business world. And we actually need a lot of people understanding other people, understanding human behavior, understanding how we approach different people, how do we work in teams. And I think this was really interesting for me when I started doing psychology. And NYU has this class, industrial organizational psychology, which is not offered actually in a lot of places, at least from what I know. So I've taken the class recently. I absolutely loved it. It's usually a course taught at master level, like when you do graduate school. But I was really happy having exposure to it before. But I also still really enjoy research part. I am involved in a lab at NYU, and I'm also doing research for a professor. So I really like, just as I said, I really like knowing things and being knowledgeable. So for me, just knowing new things, like finding answers, what this is what like research is about. So I think I kind of like both in a little bit, but business setting would be something I would prefer to apply psychology in the future.
Industrial psychology indeed is a big field in the business world. Was that class taught in the Stern School of Business?
No, it was actually taught in the psychology department at NYU. So the Stern School of Business offers more classes on the like business management side. I've taken one introductory courses, and it was called Management and Organizations, I believe, M&O for short. And so that was a really cool class, and it did use a lot of psychology in it. So when I'd taken that class, it was really similar to my mix of all psychology classes I've taken before, because the theories I heard in the class were very similar to what I already knew. So the class felt a little bit easier for me compared to other students. And then I realized, like, whoa, like there's so much psychology and human behavior in business setting. And I think after that, I've taken this industrial organizational psychology class, which was offered in the like College of Arts and Science.
Yeah, that's something else I wanted to get into. Did you have the chance to take a lot of courses cross-registered in the other schools of NYU?
So I did take a couple of classes in the Stern School of Business. I have a business studies minor, which is very popular minor for a lot of NYU students. There's another minor called BMT, which is Business of Entertainment and Media, which allows you to take classes from Steinhardt, from Tisch School of the Arts, and from Stern School of Business, which I think is a really cool minor if you want to do and like something related in sort of entertainment and media world, and also a little bit on the business side, and it combines a lot of different things. I think I've taken about 5 classes outside of College of Arts Science, and all of them were in the Stern School of Business because I became more interested in the business side, and I also had that business studies minor. I believe that there is a limit to how many classes you can take and cross register to another school. But if you speak with your advisor or if you do a minor, you can always kind of not exceed, but maybe make a limit a little higher. If you're making a minor, if you're doing a minor, for example, right? Like they cannot say that, hey, you can do this well. They have the requirements for that. So, but it really depends case by case basis. But I believe I've taken 5 courses in the business school.
Mhm. That's great. And now, Paulina, you're a senior, final semester of undergraduate. What are your immediate career plans?
So right now, I think I'm already starting to look for a job, and just seeing where I would kind of land me. I'm looking for jobs in marketing. A little bit of them are in human resources also. I also looked at some opportunities in research, but I think I'm more interested in going into business. And then I'm planning to work for a couple of years, but I'm definitely looking to pursue the graduate school, either an MBA or just going into industrial psychology as a master's program. But I think for me, at least for right now, I need a little bit of exposure into sort of career and where I would fit best before I kind of commit to graduate school, and because I think graduate school is a little bit more of a commitment in terms of where you want to go, right? And what skills you're lacking to grow in that particular field. But for me, I just need to decide a little bit what field I definitely want to go into. I know long term, what I actually recently decided is that I really want to be a professor. I really want to teach. I had an experience being a teaching assistant at NYU, which was so incredible. Like I fell in love with teaching, with being with students, interacting with people. So I think at some point I will definitely have to have a master's degree or an MBA to teach, at least teach part time. I'm not sure if I want it to be my whole life and be like a professor with a PhD and do research and all of those things, but I've definitely decided that I really want to teach at some point in my life. So I think graduate school will be the future goal, but for right now I want to work a little bit in the city.
Mhm. Have you decided that New York City, if you had the choice, would be where you'd start your career?
Yeah, I think New York City is the best place you could end up in, especially that a lot of students actually going from different cities and different colleges to New York City to find their job. There's so many opportunities. There's so many entrepreneurship opportunities also. Like I've met so many people who are starting different businesses, and I think you can also explore by yourself by talking to someone or going into a different idea. I think that's such a hub of so many different people, ideas, and it's constantly growing, growing, and growing. And I think New York City is a perfect place to start. And being at NYU, already being in New York City, like I don't have to do another step. I don't have to move to the city again to find a job. So I think New York City is definitely one of the best places I could like start my career in. I don't know if it's the best, but I will see when I start my career, sort of when I get a full time job. But for right now, I think it's great.
That's wonderful. Overall, has NYU and New York City been what you'd hoped it would be?
Such a hard question. I think I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I was just so excited. I remember when I landed, I was listening to the Empire State of Mind, which is the classical New York song, and
Yes.
I was yeah, and so I landed and I was just in a little bit of a shock and I had a little bit of a fear and I was so excited and I was so stressed and I've never been there, as I mentioned, and it was a lot. I think I tried to come up with a little bit of a like clear mind. Like I was very open minded in terms of, okay, like this is gonna be a new thing. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it has to be great, and or maybe it's not gonna be, but we'll try. And I'm not sure whether I had like clear expectations, like, oh yeah, this is going to be like the great city, or this is what I'm going to do. I think I really came with a more of an open mind, and I really suggest everyone to go into any college they're going to with a very open mind because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what people you meet, what opportunities come to you, what sort of maybe classes you take. Maybe there's a class you take and it changes your whole career decision, or maybe a whole major. So I was really glad that I actually went with sort of more open mind when I went to New York City, when I went to NYU. Yeah.
That's wise, very wise. Notwithstanding that you really liked it, obviously, there always are times when studies are difficult. Was there ever a time when you regretted choosing NYU?
I think in the first 2 years, it was definitely super hard because of all the factors I mentioned. So I think at the time I did regret it at some point. Sometimes I still think, was that the right choice? Like, even though I'm graduating and I'm still thinking, like, what could have been if, I was in another college? I think a lot of times I compare NYU to University College London because I did have an offer from there, and it's a great school. It has a lot of opportunities also. It's also in the city. Like, it has a very similar profile to NYU. So, and a lot of my friends are also there. A lot of my friends are from Europe or from the UK or are in the UK from my boarding school. So I had a little bit of a part of leaving my family a little bit, and my parents are, also in another continent. So going far away and kind of being a little bit more independent and self-reliant. Sometimes I'm thinking, it could have been a little bit easier. It could have been a little bit more, like I could have had a lot of more help around me, if that makes sense, or like maybe sort of support. So sometimes I thought about, okay, maybe this was not the best decisions, but then at the same time, I think when you're making a decision at a time, you do truly think that it's the best. So I think at the time I did think that NYU was the best choice for me. And I cannot say that, oh yeah, like I regret this, like, would not repeat this ever. Like, I cannot say that right now because I did really like a lot of parts at NYU, a lot of people that I met, such incredible minds. I think I was so grateful for all the people that I met because there's some of them who are going and starting their own entrepreneurship businesses and like talking to venture capitalists or like going to like Goldman Sachs and or writing their own journal, and I don't know, just sort of such crazy things. I'm like, whoa, like getting different prizes for different things. And I think I was so grateful for all of those experiences and all those people that I met. So I think it's a balance. But if there was no time that I've never regret this, that's not true. Like, I definitely had some doubts at the start.
Yes, I recall your first year was a rough one. Polina, NYU and New York City in particular has a reputation of, how do I say this, cutthroatness. Did you see that? Did you feel that way?
I think, yeah, I definitely heard that too about people being a little like rude, straightforward, yeah, as you said, cutthroat maybe. I think not at NYU. I think I really found a lot of people that I was working with supportive, very understanding. I always had friends that I could go and ask for help, friends that I could ask for any support. But I think you do see still some sort of, I wouldn't say cutthroatness or I would say more like independence. A lot of people are just self-reliant, doing their own thing. They're just kind of going for it. And because they are a lot of very ambitious, very self-motivated people that are just going for it, and they see that in New York you can pretty much do anything. I think that's where this competitiveness comes from a little bit. But it's not from the negative side of it, just because the person wants to be better than everyone else. It's more from just them being so ambitious and so motivated to achieve their goals and so determined. So when you understand that difference, you try to sort of navigate that culture a little bit better. But sometimes you do see just like, oh yeah, this person is just like doing this and they're so, just going for it. And it's hard to understand at first, but I can't say that this was like a negative culture for me because I'm also a very ambitious person. And I think maybe I have become one of those competitive people, and maybe someone's looking like, oh my God, she's just going for it. But I think it's helpful if you know what you're doing and if you do have a sort of like goal and ambition, you fit better into the culture. But at NYU specifically, as I said, like people were always super helpful and super open to help.
Wonderful advice. Now, Polina, final question to conclude with. Looking forward, how would you define success in your life?
That's a very philosophical question, very hard to take on. I think that's a lot of people measure success in terms of financial independence, and I think for me, it also would definitely play a certain part in terms of where I'm gonna go and what career I'm gonna build, and just having general independence in terms of everything. Making your own decisions, whether financial or not. Just having that sort of personal growth. I think that would define one sense of success for me. But in that sense, it's just achieving things that I want to do really, like as I mentioned, that I really want to teach and that I really fell in love with teaching. I think getting there at some point and, standing in front of a huge classroom on the college level and teaching there, I think would be sort of success for me because that's my maybe long-term end goal or long-term decision that I really believe in is something that I really want to do. But there's definitely a lot of different goals that I have. And I think achieving most of those goals would define my success from teaching to maybe I was thinking of starting my own project and sort of my own like business on the side. Cannot disclose anything, just an idea, but just sort of like having different ideas and different goals and achieving those while also having that independence, whether that's financial and sort of own mental independence in terms of making your own decisions and taking responsibility for your decisions. I think that's what would define success for me.
Wonderful answer. Absolutely wonderful answer. Polina, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on this episode. Listeners, today we had Polina Tyurikova, a senior at New York University. Polina, once again, thank you for joining us. We at the Ivy Dream wish you the very best in your future careers and in your future studies for that matter. And I may offer that if we can help you in some way in the future, I invite you to please contact us.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. Definitely made me rethink some of the things, especially about how I define success. Definitely think of my answer. Maybe my answer would be different when you ask me a little bit later on. But thank you so much for having me, and I hope this everything I said would be helpful for some of the people who are listening.
I'm sure it will be.